Hey, movie fan, Jerry the Gen X movie guy here, and it is time now to take a look at the box office recap for November 29th through December 1st. But before I dig into those figures, if you like videos about movies, literature, and pop culture, then I invite you to go ahead and subscribe to my channel here and like and share this video. It's only one click for you, but it really does mean the world to me, and I appreciate your support. All right, let's take a look at these figures. And I am going to be reporting both the 3-day and the 5-day grosses for each of these movies in the top 5 because it was a holiday weekend after all. So let's go ahead and begin with first place, which goes to Moana 2. Really to no one's surprise, Moana 2 is the sequel from Disney from Moana from 2016. And this movie did just spectacular business, breaking all kinds of records, exceeding all expectations. The expectation, the projection was that Moana 2 would sit around 150 million, make about 150 million over the 5-day weekend, when in fact it went on to, over the 5-day period, doing 221 million, setting a couple records. First of all, the biggest Thanksgiving 5-day opening, which was previously held by Frozen 2, shattered that record. Frozen 2 had only brought in, during its 5-day period over Thanksgiving, 125 million. Moana 2 also breaking the biggest 5-day opening gross ever, which belonged to Super Mario Brothers from last year, which was over 200 million, about 205 million, but Moana 2 actually breaking that record as well. I believe Moana 2 is a movie that's going to have some pretty good legs at the box office. I really do believe that. I know that the critical response has not been that great, but the audience response is completely opposite. On Cinema Score, Moana 2's rating from the audiences is about an A minus. The Cinema Score is reflective, I believe, of where the future attendance is going to be, and that means that audiences are going to continue to turn out. But I believe that Moana 2 actually stands a very good chance of becoming the highest grossing movie of the year. We'll see if it can get there, but definitely this is a great start towards that goal. All right, in second place is last week's number 1, which is the movie Wicked, starring Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. A huge hit, made a ton of money last week, continues to make a ton of money, at least as of this past weekend, only taking a 29% drop from last weekend's gross. The 3-day gross of 80 million and the 5-day gross of 117.5 million, setting a couple of records. First of all, domestically, Wicked is now the highest grossing adaptation of a Broadway musical, which was previously held, that record was previously held by Grease, which brought in 189 million. Wicked is also the 4th biggest worldwide stage-to-screen musical, which is behind Mamma Mia, Les Miserables, and Grease. So only in its second week. I also believe that Wicked is going to continue to play through the holiday season, even into the new year. It's definitely an Oscar hopeful. So Wicked is doing extremely well, setting record after record, and I don't think the record breaking is done quite yet. In third place is a movie that I think has kind of gotten overshadowed a little bit by the successes of Moana 2 and Wicked, but has also done pretty decent at the box office, and that's the movie Gladiator 2, which is the Ridley Scott sequel of his 2001 movie that starred Russell Crowe. It's quite epic, pretty campy. I actually really enjoyed it, and if you haven't seen it, it is a movie I highly recommend. But Gladiator 2 over the 3-day weekend brought in $30.7 million, while over the 5-day period it brought in $44 million. The 3 day gross was only a 44% drop from its opening weekend last week. So 44% is a fairly decent drop. Remember, I told you that 50% is a kind of a general norm for a second week drop. 44% drop, that's actually pretty decent. We'll see what December looks like, but it does look like it could be quite promising. Another promising note is in fourth place, a movie that, I'll be honest, I think a lot of us had written off by now, and that is the movie Red One, which stars Dwayne Johnson, who was also in Moana too. So I guess you could say Dwayne Johnson is kind of Mr. November. But Red One is an Amazon original movie, which they spent like $250 million on this movie, and it really has underperformed up to this point. But this weekend, the drop on Red One was only 2.5% from last week, and over the 3 day period, Red One over the weekend brought in 12.9 million and a 5 day gross of 18.7 million. It's still sitting at under 100 million for a domestic gross. I believe it's right around 75 million. But this weekend's gross kind of tells you that this is a movie that could actually leg it out the rest of the month leading up to the holiday, because it is a Christmas themed movie. Another movie that seems to be benefiting from the Christmas spirit is in fifth place, which is the Lionsgate family movie, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, which has really become quite the sleeper hit for Lionsgate, a studio that really has struggled this year with quite a few movies like Boy Kills World and The Killer's Game, among others, which really have underperformed. Well, here comes a movie out of nowhere, seemingly nowhere, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, and it has actually made a decent amount of money. This past weekend, coming in fifth place, like I said, having a 3 day gross of 3.3 million and a 5 day gross of 4.9 million. This is a drop of only 4.5% from last weekend. All right, one other movie I wanted to take a look at is actually sitting down in 14th place. And you might be wondering to yourself, well, why would I take a look at a movie that's down in 14th? What doesn't matter? Well, it is a debut movie. It's a movie called Queer. It is the new movie starring Daniel Craig. It's also a movie that's received a certain amount of Oscar buzz. Now, it only played on 7 screens this past weekend over Thanksgiving holiday. But the really impressive thing about Queer's box office gross is that its per screen average was around $27,000. Actually, the second highest per screen average from last weekend, only behind Moana 2. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the total figures for this year, which all the films total brought in $422 million, a new record. The previous record was back in 2013, which was $315 million over the same 5 day period in 2013, where Ralph Breaks the Internet, Fantastic Beasts, and Creed 2 led the charts back then. Last year was really, really slow. Only brought in 125 million, where Hunger Games, Songbirds and Snakes, and Napoleon were leading the charts. Not a really busy weekend. So this weekend, obviously, bringing in pretty much 4 times what the gross last year was. So really a phenomenal weekend at the box office. Really going to challenge the gross from last year. You know, we were about 10% down heading into the weekend. So we'll see just how much closer we did get. This next weekend, we don't have a whole lot of real big releases coming out. I know we have a movie called Y2K that is coming out. A British comedy called Get Away will be released. And a horror film called Werewolves is coming out. So I don't know if any of those movies are going to necessarily challenge the top 3 as it sits now, but we shall find out. And I will be back next week to take a look at the box office recap for this next weekend. All right, but that is going to be it for now. And once again, if you enjoyed this video, especially if you made it to this point of the video, I would like to ask you to go ahead and subscribe to my channel as well as like and share this video. I really do appreciate your help and your support. And so that's going to be it for now. And until next time, that's a wrap.